We want to be seen as equal to every other human being on this earth. We want the same opportunities, the same respect, the same love, the same praise, the same adoration. I mean, we want to have a seat at the table.
Welcome to Queer Talk. I'm Justin Gerhard. Our guest today is a Broadway performer, hot off the award-winning show, The Inheritance. He's also a good friend of mine, Mr. Jonathan Burke. Welcome back to the network.
Hey, glad to be back.
We wanted to dive into a conversation today that requires nuance, requires sensitivity, and also requires a level of honesty and openness that I don't think has always existed in the media or in any industry, to be honest. As somebody who's white, I have learned so much, and it's almost embarrassing that it is only now that I'm learning so much, is what I will say. How are you feeling in this moment?
I get so many messages from people asking me how I'm feeling. Are you okay? Oftentimes they are from white friends of mine. And while I do appreciate the concern and care, you know, the love that's being shown, it is a bit of an odd question to be asked, I have to say, because ultimately I'm not okay. And I haven't really been okay ever. I mean, in the larger scheme of life, it's never really been okay to be a Black person in America. So it's a layered response in that I'm so unhappy and disappointed with the way Black people have been treated since we were brought here on slave ships. But at the same time, I am healthy, I'm alive, I have love and family and friends. In my personal life, I'm doing okay. But on the grander scheme, we're fighting for something much larger than just my individual experience. So in that, I'm in a mixed roller coaster of being okay and being not okay. Every minute of every day is different.
I'm curious to know when you personally became aware of your Blackness and the systematic racism that's attached to that. Like, when did you personally experience that?
I think I'm from Baltimore, Maryland, which is a city that is largely populated by Black people. So I grew up around a lot of Black people. That being said, I did attend a Catholic elementary school that was mixed with white students and Black students. And all of the teachers there were white. There were no Black teachers. And I remember my brothers having experiences with the white teachers that felt racially driven. And that was when I was first aware of that type of behavior between races. And I was probably at that time in the second grade.
Why do you think, or is it different this time with these protests, with this momentum, with this movement right now?
This does feel very different. And I think a large part of that is because of the pandemic that's happening. So I think the fact that everyone was at home, isolated, in their thoughts, thinking about their life, where they have been, where they want to go, watching social media and the news, reading the news all day, every day without outside distractions. So when these deaths made a resurgence in the media, because they never stopped in reality, but when they made a resurgence in the media, everyone's eyes were on it. And there was no way to look away. So I think that really galvanized the people to action, because it was like, we have nothing else that we are focusing on, so we can focus our energy on this important issue. Also, in that, I think it's different because we are seeing such a range of people that are speaking out against this now. There are so many white people that are thankfully standing up finally for what is right. And I feel like we hadn't quite seen that number of allyship, which is so wonderful to see.
There's this new, and it's not necessarily new, but it certainly is a popular term, white privilege, has become, it's like the yin and the yang of this racism. We
Yeah,
cannot talk about racism without talking about white privilege.
absolutely not. I mean, they're largely one and the same. I
Yeah.
mean, the privilege of white people to be unaware of so many struggles that people of color have, and the behavior that they have towards people of color is largely akin to racist behavior. I mean, and it's something that is certainly not new in the Black culture. We have always spoken toward white privilege. It's now something I think that white people are realizing that they have.
White people didn't build this country.
You're damn right about that. I'm not sure if I can say that word, but you're right. They
Please
sure
do.
didn't. It was built on the backs of my ancestors' slaves.
What do you say to white people that think they get it?
I appreciate the support, but I think that it's really important that white people, even those who are allies, continue to listen to the voices of Black people, because there are just things that you will never fully get because you never had to experience those things. So while you may have seen it from the outside, or you may be able to sympathize, that to empathize is more difficult because you never experienced it.
For me, it's been that these things have been said before, and I wasn't listening with a really intent ear. Because that's one of the other things that I've heard from some of my other Black friends, that we've been saying this shit for a long time.
Oh,
A
absolutely. These
long
have
time.
been things for years, and a lot of people feel, well, oh, now you're just catching up. Why now?
Mm-hmm.
But I understand that viewpoint, but I also think better late than never. Let's
Mm-hmm.
start now. At least you're finally listening, and if you are, let's move from listening to action.
Do you want to share some of the ways that you remember just being like, this is not fair? What the fuck?
Oh my goodness. I mean, it's the treatment of a person walking down the street. I mean, the fact that you may walk as a Black man past a white woman and she'll pull her purse closer to herself. These are things that we notice. They may think that they're doing it without us noticing, but we do. Or we go into a store and every employee has their eyes only on us, assuming that we're going to steal something. Or you get in an elevator and the white people move away, or it's small things that seem small, but they aren't. And they're really detrimental to the spirit of Black people. I really, really do think so.
And then you have Blackness, but then, like we said before, there's your queerness, there's your gay sexuality, which, within Black culture is its own conversation. This movement right now, this momentum right now, is it changing even that issue within Black culture? Homophobia.
I think so. I think that people are really realizing that we have to come together as a race in order to get any real work done. We must be a united front, loving every aspect of our culture, every person that's a part of it, so that others will then also see the value of our existence.
Absolutely. Another thing I've noticed going to these protests is there's a real focus on what are the demands, what do we want, and when do we want it. What are the demands?
Equality in all aspects of life. there's something that Black people, it's kind of a phrase amongst Black families, is that we always have to work 10 times harder to get 5 steps behind our white counterpart. We want to be seen as equal to every other human being on this earth. We want the same opportunities, the same respect, the same love, the same praise, the same adoration. I mean, we want to have a seat at the table alongside everyone else. We don't want to own everything. We want to share the space with our fellow man.
Do you think in the midst of having number 45, I don't even use his real name anymore, he's just
Right.
45, that there will be actual change? Or is this momentum just here to get us to November 3rd, vote him out, and then we'll see change?
Well, it's going to be harder with him in office, most certainly, because he is just one of the largest arbiters of racism. So to have him at the helm is a challenge, but I think that it's a challenge that we can step up to. And I really believe that if we all come together and really work toward dismantling racism in this country and in the world, then he won't have the power that he feels that he has.
One of the reasons I wanted to have this conversation with you is because we have to start talking about it more.
I mean, when we look at, just for example, you look at the policing system, which was originally created to find slaves. That was the reason it was founded.
So what are we confused about? This is the way it was created.
Exactly. It's not surprising that that has morphed into finding and killing Black people who are free, but are still enslaved emotionally and mentally in this country.
How do you think we're going to keep the momentum?
We have to have these conversations with each other. We have with ourselves, within our own communities, especially. I think that white people have to talk to their family members, their friends, their colleagues, those who are on the other side of racism that have largely exhibited racist behavior need to be spoken to the most. We have to keep protesting. We have to keep making phone calls. We have to sign petitions. We have to support Black businesses, allow Black people to own businesses, allow Black people to be producers, CEOs, CFOs, because it all really trickles down from the head of these organizations. So if the head of these organizations are not represented with the expanse of cultures within this country, then of course the whole company is going to look like its head. We have to really just keep our hand on the pulse and keep the awareness alive.
What about this whole moment, the pandemic, the protests, is the most inspiring to you?
I don't know if it's inspiring, but I am glad to see the amount of white people that are active. I am very glad to see that. So that gives me some sort of hope. I just, again, hope that it's not only through words, because you actually have to make actions to institute change.
You touched upon it before, but I think it's very powerful to remind people who are listening that listening is one of the most amazing gifts you can give to anybody. But specifically in this situation,
it's the listening without defending or being defensive. Really taking it in and trying to then change your actions as a result.
Well, I am so grateful that you were willing to do this. I just want to say thank you for
You're,
opening your heart.
you're welcome. Thank you for having the conversation and starting it.
We'll put links to Jonathan's Instagram so you can follow this talented and amazing person's journey. Thank you so much for joining us on the network, Jonathan. We so appreciate you being here. For all those watching at home, please support the Black Lives Matter movement in any way you can. And remember, keep it queer.